Gabriela Hearst debuted her new fall collection during New York Fashion Week at a warehouse in Brooklyn. Leather trench coats for $25,000, crochet cashmere dresses for $7,500, and blazers for $2,000. The price tag comes with a promise: sustainability. Hearst is part of a younger generation of designers moving towards a more labor and earth-friendly model. She's also gotten rid of plastic packaging, she uses botanical dyes on her fabrics, and her collections incorporate dead stock materials. While beautiful, it's also entirely inaccessible for most people, so her sustainable practices have a limited impact. But fashion isn't just on the runway. It's what we all wear: sneakers, t-shirts, and sweats. It's also a multi-trillion-dollar industry that's resource-intensive. According to the UN, roughly 2,000 gallons of water are used to make one pair of jeans. 10% of all greenhouse gas emissions can be traced back to clothing and apparel production. And exploitative labor practices run rampant. A recent report found that 60% of workers in cotton mills in South India are under the age of 18. Fashion production reaches every corner of the globe, so its problems aren't isolated in any one place. But in New York, a couple of lawmakers are trying to force companies to be more transparent.
The fashion industry, unfortunately, has for too long acted in a black box, being unregulated despite the fact that it has one of the largest GDPs, frankly, not only in this country, but also in other countries around the world.
Alessandra Biaggi is one of the sponsors of the Fashion Sustainability and Social Accountability Act, or the Fashion Act. It would require apparel and footwear companies that do business in New York with more than $100 million in sales to map out their supply chain and meet wage and environmental impact targets. This information would be posted on the company's website, or they'd pay a fine of up to 2% of their annual revenue. The fine would be put into a fund for environmental justice efforts in the state.
In many ways, what this bill, to me, represents is not a punishment to the fashion industry, but an invitation to join us in this fight against the climate crisis. We want this bill to be a check on the bad actors, but also to encourage companies to all be standardized across the board in their treatment of labor and the people who work for them.
Why introduce this now?
With a lack of federal legislation, what this means is that states are now going to be required to do everything that they can to regulate this industry. Now, in addition to that, we're obviously in New York City, in New York, and New York is one of, if not the most important fashion capital in the world. And so in many ways, it's a responsibility that I think New York has to lead the way. In addition to the fact that even though this is a New York bill, it impacts global companies and forces them to change how they actually act worldwide.
Biaggi is trying a version of the think globally, act locally concept, which doesn't typically apply to the fashion industry. More than 97% of apparel sold in the US is made overseas. Take H&M, for example. It manufactures its goods in 36 countries in over 1,900 factories, and only 2 are in the US. So this New York-based bill will have global ripple effects at H&M. When Vice News reached out to H&M about the bill, they said they still needed time to review it. Other major fashion companies like Ralph Lauren declined to comment. Maxine Beda, who started working on fashion sustainability about 10 years ago, isn't surprised by the lack of enthusiasm from big fashion. But she says it can't just be changes from the industry side. Consumers also play a role in moving the needle forward. I struggle with this personally. Isn't true sustainability stopping buying stuff? Shouldn't we be stopping all this shopping all the time? True sustainability would be saying, don't consume any more things.
Yeah, I mean, that is a huge component of it, but I don't fault people. We have social media that are built on algorithms for this attention economy, so that we're constantly looking at our phones. And the engine of social media is advertising, which then connects to the fashion industry. So we're constantly exposed to cues. That's a part of a sort of broader challenge, and we can all fight back in our ways, but also think about the broader systems that are in place for us for this type of structure of complete disposability today.
Beda, Biaggi, and other supporters of the Fashion Act are pushing for the bill to be passed by June. and hope that this could all lead to a new global standard.
Do you think this bill goes far enough?
So there's no one law that covers every issue for every part of an industry. And what it does is it sets benchmarks for what companies have to do to demonstrate progress, to demonstrate that they are working on issues to improve wages and conditions in factories. But it certainly creates a very strong floor for how the global industry must operate, and that's why we're excited about it.